2, 1. Welcome to Real Tech for Real People, episode 152, with Steve Brady. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Tony. It's good to see you finally on this tech-savvy, tech-disastrous, pain-in-the-butt day for me today. But I'm glad we're able to get this thing going. Hey, a lot of things have been happening. And
Something's been happening, absolutely.
well, let's see. It's been 2 weeks since I got these. It's been 3 weeks since we did a show, I think. Pretty sure.
I think, yes.
I did a short one, or I did a show with Chris and one of his guys, Tom Weber, and we had a good show. I'm not sure if you had a chance to go and check that one out. Really enjoyed having Tom on the show.
So a little bit of it, yeah. He's from the IT department at Penn State, right?
Yeah. And Chris said that Tom couldn't join me in New York later in the next week to go get the Google Glass because Tom had to work. And the boss speaks, you gotta pay attention to that. So he didn't get to go with me, but I went anyway and had a good time.
So what was that like? How's that whole thing work? When you buy this glass, you can't just wait for it to come in the mail or something. You have to go get it?
You have to go get it. There are 3 opportunities, 3 places you can go: San Francisco, Los Angeles, or New York City. So as much as I would love my trips out to California and really enjoy visiting San Francisco, I went for the path of closest resistance, and I went to New York City. Took the train in, and right before I went, they sent a note reminding you that you had to have Bluetooth.
Hold on. I just want to make sure. So next time, someone who's an Apple fan goes, to the mall to stand in line, I get to compare that to you going from central Pennsylvania to New York City.
New York City? Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to establish that first. Now let's hear the rest of the story.
Okay, well, let's back up and say I didn't have to stand in line and wait. I had an appointment. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
You did have an appointment. There you go.
I did have to wait, how many months from March until June before I could actually make it into the queue. But yeah, I had an appointment. And right before I went, they sent an email out saying, hey, you make sure that you have Bluetooth tethering enabled on your phone.
Bluetooth tethering. Now, what is that exactly?
Well,
That's different than Bluetooth pairing, just a regular device?
All right, it's different than tethering. Tethering will move the audio back and forth, and you can have some controlling of play and stop. Tethering is essentially giving you connection to the internet. Well, in the Galaxy S4, AT&T and Samsung took Bluetooth tethering out. It's not just not enabled, it's out.
Yeah, Bluetooth tethering. You got to really watch that second word there carefully.
Yeah. So I knew it wasn't there. I noticed it hadn't been there, and I thought, well, what can I do? And I found where you can replace an APK in the core functionality of the phone. It's called framework-res, res.apk. You can replace it in your phone, and it returns Bluetooth tethering to the phone. I mean, earlier I'd turn tethering on. You copy an old APK out. You save it with a different name. You copy a new one in, and it turns wireless tethering on. So you do Wi-Fi tethering. So even though I knew better, because I knew this was different, I went that same approach. I did framework res APK, changed it to framework-res.old, and my phone went brick.
Wow. Now, was this there, or was this before you went there to try to enable?
This was the morning I was going to get on the train.
Okay. You're like, okay, let me enable this before I go. All right.
Right. And so my phone, which is nice and pretty now, was bricked. And I had no time to download, but I knew the answer had to be you have to download the whole new firmware for the phone. So you have to basically put the whole new ROM back on the phone. And I don't have time to do it before I leave the house, even though I have super fast internet here. So I get on the train, I take my tablet with me because my tablet can do Wi-Fi and Bluetooth tethering, so at least I'll have an Android device that can be tetherable. I have my computer with me, and I have my backpack with the cameras in it and my computer and everything. And on the train they have Wi-Fi, but it just doesn't do the job to download 785 megabytes worth of ROM. I tried. And I let it run for the full 2-3 hour train ride. It just didn't do it. So we're almost there, and this is a long story, and I wish I could say it has a happy ending. Well, I guess it does. I have glass. Uh, but we're almost there, and Matt goes, "Hey, can we meet someone for lunch? A friend of mine in New York City." I said, "Sure." And I go, "Where are they?" He says, "Well, near the World Trade Center." Okay, well, can they meet us halfway? No. She only has an hour for lunch, so we have to go all the way down there. So we go down to the World Trade Center for lunch. I'm huffing and puffing, backpack, hat
By the
on.
way, that's just where I was a couple weeks ago too. You saw the tower, I'm
I
sure.
saw the new building, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as tall as they say it is. I mean, in person, it just isn't. I don't know why.
Well,
This didn't look as
well,
tall.
yeah, I was saying the same thing, and it certainly doesn't look as impressive as the Twin Towers were. And I guess could that be because it's only one of them versus I remember seeing the two big towers there, but
It could be in the fact that normally
yeah.
in the distance things taper in the first place, and this building itself tapers.
Yeah,
So
and then a lot of the last couple hundred feet, just that little
yeah, and you just can't see it even up there,
spire
and
thing.
they're cheating. They're cheating.
Yeah, cheating. Yes.
Well, so we're down there, and I get lunch, and Matthew, I got my food right away, but I had to rush back because now I only had about 45 minutes until my 2 o'clock appointment, and I'm way down south on the island. I have to get back to Chelsea Market. Well, Matthew and his young lady friend hadn't even started eating yet, so I leave them behind, and I'm following directions on my tablet now, navigating with my tablet because I don't have glass. I can't do navigation. And so I'm hustling. I'm running up the streets trying to get to the subway because there's no way I'm going to do a 50-minute walk, 58-minute walk up there and get there in time. So I get on the subway, and I'm looking to see on my tablet because it tells you how many stops you have to go before you get off. Google Maps is really good that way, and my tablet had to be rebooted. It froze. So now I'm on the subway, and I don't know when to get off the train.
It just froze, like
Just froze. I had to reboot it.
not battery, just froze.
No, just froze. And I'm like, great. So phone's bricked. Tablet's not frozen. I had to reboot it.
I don't know what stopped to get off.
I don't know what stopped to get off. So I see this map, and I'm dripping in sweat now. I mean, this is 95-degree day in New York City, and I'm not exactly the thinnest guy anymore. And so I'm like one of these fat old guys that just sweats. And I'm looking at this map, trying to see it, and this poor young gal, she's sitting in front. I say young, she's like maybe 22, 23 years old. And she's sitting there, and I'm like, excuse me, I'm not trying to be rude. I just need to see where I need to get off the train. She said, where are you going? I said, Chelsea. Where are you going, sir? I'm going to Chelsea. Where in Chelsea, sir? Chelsea Market. Oh, you're going to want to get off at the 14th Street exit. It's, three exits up. You'll be fine. So I'm sitting there, backpack on, sweating, and I see the sign in the window. It says, this car is air conditioned. Do not open windows. And I'm like, liars. They're lying. It's sweating in here. And every stop, and then I look up, and she goes, I'll tell you when, sir. Sir, this is your stop now. And I was waiting for her to go, do I need to help you off the train? Do you have a walker? She was being so polite to this old guy. I get off, and then, of course, when you're in these train stations, on the subway stations, they have several different exits out.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, which one do I really want to get out?
Which one do I walk out? Yeah.
So I pop up, and I'm at 8th Avenue. I need to get to 9th Avenue. 8th Avenue, but there's this building that says Google. And I'm like, this is 8th Avenue. This isn't it. One more block over. So I go one more block, and there it is, Chelsea Market. I go upstairs. And oh, man, I am just soaking wet. And I had a hat on. The whole brim of the hat, underside of the brim of the hat was just soaking wet. And I'm apologizing. I said, I'm really sorry about this. I'm a couple minutes early. I'm not late. And so I'm really sorry I'm like this. I had to rush up here from World Trade Center. My son wanted to go down there for lunch. And they're looking around. Your son? And I wasn't quick enough. In hindsight, I know what I should have said. What I did say was, oh, did I mention he was with a girl, so he's still down there? He chose to abandon me. What I should have done was, oh, yeah, I'm really sorry. That was rude of me. Matthew, why don't you meet these fine people here at Google? Well done, Matthew. The least y'all could do is say hi to my son. But, it's bad enough that I'm about to tell you, so glad I didn't make him think I was insane. I did ask him if I could use their internet to download the ROM, because I knew they would have fast internet through Google. Sure, no problem. So they take me in, and you have these little desks, these nice little tables, where you can go and they set you up, and he said, this is you have one more chance to pick a different color. So they have a big mirror and all the different colors there: tangerine, sky blue, cotton white, slate, and black, or and charcoal or coal, whatever it's called. And he goes, so while you try these different ones on, would you like something to drink? I mean, you're pretty hot. How about the beer, wine, soda, water? I said, a beer would be great. And could you give me some napkins? Because I don't want to be rude to the people after me that have to try this on. I want them to not have to worry about all my sweat. So I want to bring me some napkins to wipe off. So he does. I try them all on. I really like the blue, but for business purposes, I think I'll go with the black. I go back to the table, pull out my computer, and I'm setting up my table, and I put the beer down, and I'm setting up my computer.
Wait, no.
And as I'm setting up my computer, boom, there it went.
No. No.
Full bottle of beer, off, just flat on its side on the table, but I caught it. And I, slammed it right down on the table like an idiot, at which point it just gushers up, right?
Oh. Ah.
That's my introduction to John, the guy who helped me fit my Google Glass.
Wow, you can't make that up.
It's as bad as the story with Matthew, where the lady says parking's not her forte, or driving's not her forte, right? It's just a too true story. And the guy, he fits it on me. He tells me, well, you want it to be up above your eye, so you're looking up at it, because it looks really awesome right here, because you can see through it.
That's the thing. I guess you have to have them on to just get that, right? No one can really explain that to you, I take it.
Yeah, and because right now I don't see it. I see everything I normally see. It is up here, but if I tap it and look up, it's 21:45. It's 9:45, and I can say, okay, glass. Mm-hmm. And it's going to let me take a picture. And it just took a picture of the screen. I mean, it really is that cool. It really is that simple. And so he takes me, he puts it on me, and he's first thing he says, he goes, okay, you can Google with this thing, just like you would Google on a computer. So tap it, say, okay, glass, and then ask Google, ask him about someone famous. And I will do exactly for you right now what I did that moment, that day. Okay, glass. Google, who is Tony Pittman?
No, you didn't.
I did. Tony Pittman is an American former college football player. It's exactly what you get with Google now. That's exactly what I did, and he looks at me, and I go, I can't help it if you don't know this famous person. He expected, I don't know, Bill Clinton, President Obama, whatever. I said, look, he goes, so it was great. And we looked out, and he showed me the meatpacking district, pictures of the meatpacking district, all that stuff. Showed me the other things you can do, taking pictures, recording the movies. And it really is that it's just up above you. But the one thing I wanted to really talk about besides the beer story, just because, if I can't tell a story that embarrasses me, what good is a story to tell? Everybody's freaking out about this. You're going to be recording everything and everything I do, and you're always going to be doing something. Let me give everybody a hint real quick. If you look carefully, watch my screen. When I tap it, you see the light come on. You see the screen right there. And if I say, okay, glass, record a video, if this actually will get very bright, so when we're recording something.
Yeah, I can clearly tell there's a light on, yes.
And actually, if you're standing in front of me, or if you're sitting there and we're looking at each other, if you look carefully, you can actually see what it is on that screen. Mm-hmm. And so when they're fitting you, the guy's going, okay, so I see, well, you're on the menu screen. Okay, now slide forward, now slide back, do this, do that. So these people that are all worried that you're going to be recording all these things without them knowing it, well, if you're in public, guess what? I can be using my phone anyway.
Sure.
And if it's private, you're going to have to probably either see me go like this to turn it on, and then I'm still going to have to say, okay, glass. Or you're going to see me reach up and actually press the button to take a picture. And there is an opportunity.
Can it record video too? It can record video?
You can record video. In fact, that's what I did a second ago when I said record a video. And I might even go ahead and stick it up on YouTube so we
And it is
can.
connected to your phone successfully now.
Yeah, I downloaded the ROM at Google, installed the ROM while I was on the train, got my phone back up and running.
Yeah.
But it goes onto
At
any
least you were
Wi-Fi
going to the
phone
right
too.
place to get all that fixed.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, except they never heard. The guy didn't even know how to ROM a firmware update off phone.
Really? Hmm.
He's hired to fit you for Google Glass.
And that's it.
The
Okay.
other cool thing is you can adjust it. You may not be able to see. I'll just kind of show you here. You can adjust the display
Ah, okay.
to get it centered on your eyes, and that little
And
diagonal
it
you
works
see
in the
here.
show. You're wearing glasses with glass.
Not right now.
Not
No,
right now.
no, it just
Oh,
looks
okay.
like it because I got all those bags under my eyes because I'm old.
No, but well, let me see the frame. It looks like there's lenses on it, but no, that's just the nose
It's
prop
just the
things.
nose piece. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I couldn't tell. All right.
Yeah, it does come with, and I left them downstairs. It comes with the most awesome pair of sunglasses I've ever had. They actually clip right in here, and it's like a glass. It just looks like a pair of sunglasses at that point. And especially
Yeah.
since I have the charcoal or black framework, it just all blends in, and it's polarized lenses. It's a really nice pair of glasses. So. The quick and dirty on the functionality of it. I really like the possibility of what you can do with it. There's not as much functionality yet as is coming. So you can take pictures. You can now actually go to web pages. You can actually select a link on a web page. You can all my Google Now tabs show up in here or cards, so I can tell you, for instance, tomorrow my schedule is at 9 o'clock. I got a call. 3:30 I have a call. 4:45 we have a get together. The Orioles are leading the Rangers in the ninth inning, 3-1, and the Phillies are beating the Nationals 3-1. Also, it's funny how those two scores seem to mirror each other all the time. Everybody was up today on the stock market: Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Boeing. The four I track. It's 76 degrees outside, and my battery has 79% battery life, and it's Wi-Fi connected. So, all the Google Now cards are there. I can get New York Times updates. There's a guy who's done a glass fitness program where he steps you through an exercise regimen and does a countdown and those sorts of things, which is
Wow.
kind
So
of
you can exercise in glass?
you can.
Wow.
And one of the things I've been slowly tossing up over at the Google Plus, you can go to Glass Explorers and join the discussion over there, and there's a good ideas section, and I've been tossing out ideas for things. It would just be little kind of one-hit wonders. It would be nice to be able to set a repeating timer. So like when you're cooking a steak and you want to remember to go flip it every 8 minutes, it'd be great to just put a little reminder in here, kind of it blink in your eye and beep and tell you that it's ready to flip the steak. It'd be nice to be driving down the road or riding your bicycle in particular and say, okay, Glass, what's my speed? And have it give you your GPS speed as you go down the road. And so a lot of good people are working on things like that. But Glass is fun. Glass is interesting. Lots of potential. And as you would expect for something that is essentially a very expensive beta for developers, it's got a long ways to go.
Yeah. Do you see it, becoming a mainstream product anytime soon, or do you think once it hits that stage, it'll be completely different from what it is now?
I think it's really close. The developers are really coming up with some good ideas, and I think they're really poised to release a few more things. Every month they send out an update. They call it XE for experimental explorer or explorers. 7 is this one for July. Next month will be 8. And my guess is that they're looking at sometime early next year, and they are officially they're targeting less than $1,500. Good, because I'd hate to have it be more.
Yeah,
Than that.
well, that's not going mainstream at $1,500. I got to tell you, you know, I'm I'm still a bit bewildered. The thing that I am not sure of, when we talk about phones, right, carrying these things, you even talk about wearing something like a fuel band on your wrist. It seems like we've become comfortable with those things. I wonder, will people feel comfortable wearing this? What do you think?
It's not uncomfortable having it on, and one of the things that people always talk about is, oh, I'm going to make fun of you when I see you with it, or what have you. I have had very few people comment on it, and very few people seem to notice it, but the ones that do, they know what it is when they see it, and they ask me about it. Is that is that the Google Glass? And of course I do. Yeah. Did you want to try it? And when they do, they're like, "Oh wow, when can I get one?"
Hmm.
Which is, it's just amazing that that's their first thing they say. When can I get one?
Hmm.
I've had, so one of the first things, I promised I would go to Best Buy and show the guy that sells cell phones there. And so I go there and, hey, is Mitch here? No, he's doesn't come in until 3. I go, yeah, I'm not hanging around for 3 hours, but does everybody else here in the cell phone section want to try on Google Glass? And oh yeah, so yeah, all the Best Buy employees started converging to try it on, and even some of the women at the stores, because I did it, went to 2 Best Buys, were saying, when can I get this? Chris generously took me to the Steve Martin concert at Penn State last weekend or
You're
weekend
kidding
before
me,
last.
Steve Martin? You see the
Yeah.
link I put up there? That's funny.
No.
You said that. Look in the chat.
Oh, let me go to our chat over here.
That's funny you said Steve Martin.
Oh, because
I had posted a link to his glasses invention, famously from The Jerk. Remember when he invented those glasses?
oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, he plays the banjo. I don't know if
He
you're
invented
familiar.
those glasses that, went mainstream, and he made a lot of money, remember, but then I guess it caused people to get cross-eyed because it had something on in the middle where you could take them on and off. And then he got sued into oblivion back to, you know.
The OptiGrab.
Rags to riches to rags. That was funny. But
uh,
so you went to see him in he's still at it, huh?
well, yeah, he plays the banjo. He's really, really good at the banjo. Now, of course, he had to play the comedian because people go to hear Steve Martin, the comedian, play the
Yeah,
banjo.
that's all I would think he would be, the comedian. Yeah.
Yeah, I go to hear Steve Martin, the banjo player, and unfortunately, he made jokes too. But so I was even there, and it turns out one of the guys we were in the president's box, and the president of the university wasn't there, but his IT guy was there, and his IT guy's family, and mom and dad and brother and sister-in-law, and they all tried it on. I'm not sure if I can even do this justice. Let's see if I can tap it and. Oh, because it doesn't know that it's on. Let's see. There we go. How do I get this to display? It's not going to do it. But they all tried it on. They thought it was neat. In fact, the mother was like, I'm going to go home and research this. So I think when we next meet, if you'll try them on, I think you'll see the potential. Yeah, will you fall in love with it?
Will it work with the HTC One?
Yes, it will. It will actually.
Without going the brick route, it should work.
It should work. If you go to settings and go to your data connections, easiest way to find this out. If you go to system settings and go to more networks, you'll see tethering and portable hotspot, and what that should show you is
Bluetooth tethering. There it is.
yeah. See, so if I'd gone the HTC One route.
Yeah, there it is. Click a checkbox. It's on.
I would have been able to do that. So
it'll work. I just didn't need to get in line.
Yeah,
so to speak.
At the Google store. Yeah, we even went down to the bar. Matthew went with me, like I said. And we went there, Darnell, and we went down to the bar in the bottom of the place. You would think a bar in the same building as Google. I would have been tired of seeing glass. But the whole wait staff came over and wanted to try it on. They hadn't seen it yet. They thought it was cool. They were taking pictures with it. I've had my picture taken more in the past 2 weeks by my own Google Glass than anything else. So
now you've had it for how long now?
2 weeks today.
2 weeks. So after take me through. So after you kind of put it on, it's cool. You get to do kind of the honeymoon period with it. Now after 2 weeks. Honestly, what do you find yourself using it for?
Sadly, the biggest thing you use it for is phone calls and taking pictures. You know,
So the taking pictures thing, I got, okay, glass, take a picture. You just, you know, but phone calls, how does that work?
well, it's got a bone conduction piece behind the ear, so it goes up against the bone, and because it's Bluetooth, like any other Bluetooth, it'll just connect through to your phone when you're making a phone call. So it's like a really expensive Bluetooth headset. Um, Now, for some
Okay.
people, the bone
Oh, so when
conduction
you
is
say
really
phone
good.
calls, you don't mean like, placing calls and stuff. You mean just talking, having the conversation through
Just
a
having a
Bluetooth headset.
conversation. You can do a video call, video chat, and you can do a Google Hangout audio chat, like so we could do like we're doing here, but you would see my camera view, you wouldn't see me.
I
So
see whatever you were looking at.
yeah, so the only way to make it really work for a show like this would be I'd have to have a mirror, and this has got to be the most.
Can you join this on glass also?
I was trying to earlier, and I haven't figured out a way yet because it's my same account for both.
Oh.
If I could, I would definitely want to invite us in. So hopefully
Well,
in the next few
interesting.
weeks I'll play with that. I do use it to catch up on news because New York Times comes through here with headlines. So if I scroll forward and look at the videos, there's my Who is Tony Pittman. New York Times. I have two updates: Rascals and Heroes Before the Babe. So it's a story about baseball. Irish Parliament votes to legalize limited abortion, which is big news for a Catholic nation, I suppose. And I can tap it to have it read aloud, and you can't hear it because it's this bone conduction thing.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it is more impressive in the potential than it is in the kinetic than it is in the actual right now. But as we hear some of the things that are coming out, people are using it. They've created some applications for cooking, a cooking navigator, so you can step through the recipe while you're cooking. Um, One of the things that somebody's come out with is a teleprompter. So essentially, you can have key talking points that you can just slide through, and you can make sure you hit your talking points as you go through the things.
Now, when you have it hooked up and you're doing that, can you also use your phone to navigate? So you're kind of looking ahead and doing that, or is the only touch interface on the device?
The only touch interface is the device itself.
Okay.
But you can be looking ahead while you're doing the whole thing. I mean, you're not really doing much. In fact, if I had to navigate on my phone, I'd be looking down rather than this, which has me looking out the whole time, and occasionally looking up. That's the other thing that everybody's like, well, you're going to be so distracted, you'll be looking at the screen all the time. Actually, you look up at the screen very rarely, especially if I know what I'm going to do, because I can, okay, glass, make a call to, and I don't have you on my list. I need to put you on my list. But if I had said your name, oops, crap, I'm calling my daughter now. End that call.
Calling somebody.
um, and if I do that, I don't even have to be looking if I know the names in my queue, which is kind of nice. I mean, and it puts a little picture of the person up there when you do that.
So very interesting. Yeah, I think Google, is really pioneering something for us all, I guess, and we'll see, what it turns into. This, I guess, could be the first of what would be many things that fall in that wearable category.
I guess Apple has just gotten a patent in Japan, was it, on watches?
There's been rumors, yeah, that they've really started down the path with the watch, but some of that's old news. I don't know that we'll see one or not. Tim Cook has hinted that wearables are the future, uh, but until we see something, it's just hearsay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they come out with, and we've had the conversation before. I think Chris and Tom and I talked about when Apple says they're not going to do something, kind of like they said not glass.
Yeah,
The
expected.
Steve Jobs world was expected. Tim Cook may be a little more transparent in that regard, where he
Yeah.
says he is interested in watches, and if they do have a patent on a watch, that's interesting. One guy said though that the return of the watch will bring about the obvious uh, distraction as opposed to the subtle distraction of the phone. He says, it used to be you'd look at your watch, check the time, and people would know you weren't paying attention. Now you can just kind of surreptitiously look under your table and check your email or check your time. And so at least you hide it. Now it's going to be right bald face in front of you again, where everything will be scrolling on your wrist. And this isn't subtle. I mean, you see the light come on if I want to go and check something, and I actually have to tap it, and I actually have to slide forward and do those things. So there's
Well, there's something you could do by tilting your head, right? What is doesn't?
I can turn it on, and then I
Okay.
can say OK glass
Okay.
and do something. And you can actually set how far up and down, and you can also set it so it knows if it's on your head. Uh, but that's not the only news. So I don't mean to hijack the show
No,
for
that's
this.
huge news. I mean, talking to someone who actually has glass, that is huge, huge news. So far, I've only been able to see these other folks on shows and hear what they have to say. I was anxious to see what it was like, talking to someone directly who's got them.
Well, let me know next time you're in Pennsylvania, and I will, wherever you are, I'll make sure I get to that point, and you can run around with them. And I really, like I said, I really am surprised. Now here in central Pennsylvania, where we're not San Francisco, we're not New York City, where people already know about this, and it's already top of the tech news, and everybody's been talking about glass. People here just don't really know what it is, and so if they see something on your face, like you said, it looks like glasses. One lady thought I just had an interesting pair of glasses on.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of the checkout counter people at Wegmans, until the young lady at the register next to her went, Google Glass! And then it was like, well, oh, yeah, this is cool. Hey, you want to try it? Oh, yeah. Uh,
It's
the
just
other
an
day,
entirely new category. I mean, yeah, 2007, this iPhone thing was revolutionary, but it was there were similar shaped pieces of electronics, right, that people have been carrying around. It wasn't like something all that revolutionary. This is different. This is creating a whole new category of device, and that's why I think people are so intrigued by it.
yeah, I think we're probably one step away from severing the tie to the phone. And when they do that, this is going to be truly phenomenal, because when I can step away from having to be tied to a phone when I'm not near Wi-Fi, and it just has its own cellular data connection, then that's going to make for quite the device. But they're going to have to really work on the battery life, the battery being this piece back here. Uh, when you think about it, that's 7 hours worth of battery life right there for wearing it. And they'll have to work on that. I did have it on the whole time I was at Gettysburg on the 4th of July. I did do a lot of the non-threatening, put it around your neck so that people know you're not videoing them, that sort of stuff. They tell you to do that or do the on the top of your head. So anytime I go into a men's room or something like that, I make sure I put it up there, because for two reasons. One, I don't want to accidentally record my own junk. And
two, you don't want it to fall anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when I pull it down, it turns out it kind of does some funky things to my hair, so I have to pay attention.
Gotcha.
So
So very, very, very interesting. I'm trying to think. Has there been a similar device, lately? I mean, it's hard to think. I mean, when people started getting computers, what's that? I don't know. What do I make of that? But it's been a while. I mean, other things have kind of morphed. I mean, most people can, if anything, just vaguely remember before there was some type of phone device people were carrying around. They were big and stuff, but the phone has been evolving over such a long period of time that we're used to that. This, give me another like completely new category device we could chew on like this. It seems like it's hard to put a finger on one.
yeah, this is a really different piece of hardware.
Completely different.
Now, this is one that I was driving up to the board of directors orientation meeting I had one-on-one with our CEO for the electric company, and I was like, this is an interesting hotel that you see on the left there. And so I just reached up and tapped it, said, "Okay, Glass, take a picture." And so I was able to get these shots, in the office up at the board of directors, and you can see it's your point of view. It's a very wide-angle lens. This is our CEO. We were at lunch, and I would like to say he's being very pensive. He's actually looking at. I can make what I see in Glass show up on the phone, and he's looking at my phone and going, "Oh, you just took a picture of me." Um, and then, if this is what I think it is, you should see a video come up here.
Now, where is this playing from? The glass, or is this
No,
on your phone, or
this is
what?
now in Google Plus,
Oh,
and
this is on Google
so
Plus.
yeah, so I was driving the convertible through the woods, and it's much more smooth than you're seeing here. It's HD quality video. So I can hit the replay and let it go again.
You know, that's great for driving. Great for. I know a few. I know a few road racers who occasionally drive over the border in Mexico and do some competitive road race driving who would love that
Oh, yeah.
because they certainly don't break the speeding laws in the U.S. to do this, but when they go to Mexico,
They would love to do
they
this.
could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look off to the right-hand side here too, you'll see that focal length on this thing. You know, we talk about 50 millimeter lenses and really big 500 millimeter lenses. This is 2.95 millimeters, an f-stop of 2.48. So we're looking at some decent resolution here, and also super wide-angle lens. And I really enjoyed this because, as you can see, you're seeing what I'm seeing, and I'm obviously paying attention to the road because I'm looking at the road. I've thought about turning it on for like a 10-minute recording and just driving the way I normally do. And the trick to remember here, as you're doing this, is that because it's above your head, if you're used to using a camera, you're going to want to look through the glass as if it's your viewfinder. And the reality of it is, let me get out of screen sharing here in a second, but the reality of it is you don't want to do this and look through the viewfinder. You want to look up because they've designed the camera so that it looks out at your field of view. If you look through it, you're actually shooting down because you've tilted your head down. The camera is now looking as if you look straight ahead. You're checking out some inappropriate places on people's way.
Made me think of something. Be right back.
So while he's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and flip over to another video that I have here. This particular video, I can full screen video. If I do the full screen video here, you can see the whole drive. So I can show the view that you're having as I go driving down the road. And again, you can see the rearview mirror up there. It's 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. You can look and say, yeah, he's doing under 40. I don't really want to take these roads too fast. It's a gorgeous day. Briefly look off to the side. And again, I was tipped looking down, so occasionally I realized I shouldn't. I need to look up and stop using the viewfinder or the glass as a viewfinder. And you come across this ridge here, and you just see this expanse in front of you. It's just gorgeous up in central Pennsylvania, and always like having an opportunity to share north central Pennsylvania with anybody that wants to see it.
All right, never mind. I'll have to find it.
I went ahead and showed our viewers some other videos that I took while the interlude here. Well, we'll talk about this more, I'm sure, over the next few weeks. I do want to cover a couple major and minor news stories. One of the things that I think you and I have talked about in the past is getting a TechNet subscription. Microsoft's TechNet, where you can download all the different versions of Office and all the different versions of Windows and Visio and Project, and it's like $199, $250 a year to get this. So Microsoft is killing that. If you don't have it by August 31st, it's going away. And so I actually had to have my pick of the week is going to deal on this. I had to go and download Windows 7 again to install in a virtual machine. I'll talk about that a bit later, but it's sad to see this going, and now I'm having to.
It is sad. It is really sad. I wonder what this means, that's going away.
Yeah, I had to budget for this? Well, one of the questions they had was, does this mean that you're hurt by piracy or people doing like what I've recommended, what Paul Thurrott had recommended doing? And the reality of it is, I don't think so. But I think that they got to the point where you can get enough evaluation out of a 90 or 120-day trial that they feel like they don't need you to have this for unlimited amount of time to download anything at any time to try for at any length.
Mm-hmm.
Which is too bad. And they're going to get money out of me. They're going to have to. But I am looking for alternatives for things like Visio and Microsoft Project and Office. So stand by for news. We'll have more to come on those fronts here as we go forward as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of sad. I mean, those were, TechNet, the whole MSDN thing. I mean, that used to be big deal. I used to have whole collections of that stuff sitting around. It was great to have those products around. Now, to see it killed, I never anticipated that day, to be honest. Somewhat surprising.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed, but if you're still interested in getting that value for your money, you can sign up and get a new subscription until August 31st. And so jump on that as quickly as you can. I believe it's up through August 31st. You can get a new subscription, and you can renew any subscription you have up till August 31st. Or maybe you can only renew. I can't remember which. But I think you can get a new subscription. Because I considered it, because mine will expire in April, because it'll allow those to continue out. I considered using a different account and getting another one to carry me a few extra months. But as of yet, there's no word on whether existing licenses will die. And so come April, whatever, all my Windows installs and my Word install and Visio would just stop working or not. It's unclear about that. They say for certain types of licenses, not this one, that definitely is happening. They spell that out for some of them, but not for others. Mm-hmm. I would like to think the silence means it won't happen, but it's unclear. Another bit of news, this week Google's rolling out updates for Maps for Android. The iOS version is awaiting approval from Apple, and as soon as it comes out, it'll be out there. What the big changes are, they're getting rid of latitude, where you could share where you were, you could check into locations. Just kind of their force thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would do it occasionally just for giggles, but they would give you points. Woo! I got 2 points. But they're adding real-time traffic rerouting. So you're heading down the highway looking for adventure and whatever comes your way, and Google says, what's coming your way is a 45-minute stop in traffic because of an accident. We're going to reroute you. And it will real-time reroute you on a different route and notify you that you're avoiding it, so it puts you on an alternate route that's now faster. Also, as accidents are reported, the accident and location and description appears on the maps, and even though Google just bought Waze, which you and I have talked about is great for telling you these things and doing rerouting, this actually was in the works before Waze, so this isn't a reflection of them having purchased Waze. And they also have a new interface coming for tablets themselves. So big updates coming to Maps for Android, rolling out all this week. I haven't gotten mine yet, but it's coming, and iOS as soon as Apple approves it. And then I wanted to get your thoughts on Apple losing to the Justice Department, or Department of Justice, losing their ebook.
The ebook deal. Case. Yeah.
What did you? Why don't you summarize it first, and then tell us what your thoughts are, the impact of this?
Well, I might not be up on all the details, but from what I know, when Apple was trying to make the deals to roll out the iBookstore, I guess tell me if I'm correct there, that they kind of put a lot of pressure on the content owners, the publishing houses, to essentially coordinate, which is illegal, right? Coordinate what pricing model, they would insist on for, through the iBookstore, and that had implications on how competitive it would be in relation to other places they were selling these books, etc. But I guess the bottom line story is, it's illegal, frankly, to essentially fix or coordinate pricing.
Right.
In a market like that, and they were found guilty of that.
Now, the interesting thing, if you remember back to the high days of Amazon Kindle, every book for $9.99, and new release would come out, and you get a new release for $9.99, and the publishers didn't like it because Amazon was selling that book for $9.99, and they were selling that book to Amazon for $12. And by selling it for $9.99, you go and say, wait, I can buy the hard copy for $15 at Barnes and Noble or Borders, or are there any other bookstores anymore? Uh,
None to speak of. There aren't even many Barnes and Noble or Borders anymore, to be
yeah.
honest with you.
Walden Books, I guess, is the other one I was thinking of. Instead of being able to
B.
go,
Dalton Bookseller.
oh
Remember those?
yeah,
I mean, those are all gone now. I mean,
Books
geez.
a Million.
Yeah.
And so essentially Amazon was undercutting it, but they were undercutting it taking a loss on their own. I mean,
Hmm.
they voluntarily sold it for $9.99 and paid $12 to the publishers. The publishers didn't like it because it was lowering the expectations of the customers, the price expectations of the customers for the books, putting downward pressure on it. But at the same time, Amazon's saying, look, you're not having to print the paper copies, you're not having to ship it. Same discussions we've had about textbooks.
Hmm.
And Apple came in and they said, hey, you don't like this, so why don't we do it as an agency where you will set the price on the book and I will keep 30%. So whatever you set the price for, the new contract is I keep 30%. And when they got everybody on board, he being Steve Jobs, then Amazon was pressured to keep up and change the way they were doing business, and so Amazon had to do away with $9.99 pricing. So, I mean, the concern I have is what does this really mean um, for consumers?
You know, that's different than what I thought that story's about, though. I thought it was, you know, they were pressuring the publishers to, I guess, you know, maintain a certain price level through the iBookstore to make it competitive to other places they may sell these books. But maybe I'm recalling that incorrectly.
No, they actually were using it to raise the prices. Apple was promising that they would make money on it, and told the publishers you can set the prices. And so that was
So as
the
long as they
unfair,
got their 30%.
right. And unlike what they did with music, where they said all songs for 99 cents and you get 70 cents out of every dollar, they then in this case said, no, you get to set your price. You get 70 cents out of every dollar. And
Well, what's wrong with that then?
it's the idea that they took it out of the hands of Amazon to sell at a loss leader. It's because Amazon was saying, look, you want $12 for that book, I'll pay you $12 for that book. I'm only going to charge $9.99.
Hmm.
And so the psychological piece here is,
I'm puzzled why that was found to be illegal by Apple. That's not how I recall the story, but maybe I need to reread it.
no, let me pull open
Or
the,
I haven't looked at it in a while, but yeah, I don't understand why they would lose that case, to be honest. All they're saying is, you price it the way you want. Our agreement is, I get 30%.
it was
I don't know why that would be.
because they got the publishers to pressure Amazon to change the way they were doing business.
Was it the issue that they pressured them? They got them to pressure them, or was it the model themselves? Let's see.
Justice Department prosecutors argued that Apple used publishers' dissatisfaction with Amazon's aggressive ebook discounting to shoehorn itself into the digital book market when it launched the iPad in 2010. Apple's proposal let the publishers set prices themselves. That led to Amazon losing the ability to price most ebook bestsellers at $9.99, causing prices to rise. And so it was the clear negative impact on consumers that had
Okay,
the
so
Justice
it
Department
wasn't the model itself. Okay, it was the fact that they conspired across these different publishers to get them all to agree
to take power
to
away from
do this
Amazon's
and then
pricing.
take power. Okay, that I get. That I get. So that's the collusion part of it. I thought it was just the fact that, hey, you know, we'd like you to sign up for this model. You set the price, we take 30%. Problem is they didn't do that in individual negotiations. They kind of
Right.
got them all to jump in,
Well,
and in doing so, collectively put pressure on Amazon. And that I guess is the problem.
and the case here was arguing that the publishers never met in one room. Apple functioned as the, don't worry, as long as I talk to each of you separately and we all agree to the same thing, this has got to be legal.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
collusion if I share with you rather than you share with each other. And the Justice Department was saying, no, seriously, that's collusion. The fact that you have a middleman pushing this still makes it collusion. Most of the publishers settled out of court. Apple chose to go to court, and Apple lost. Now Apple stock. Let me check again. Apple stock today closed up 1.5% at 427.29. So
Gotcha.
yesterday it
So it's
hurt them a
that.
little bit. Today it's back up. So
So it's that. It's the collusion nature about it. Okay, got it. Yeah. So I was puzzled by the model itself being a problem, but it was really how they played that middleman,
right.
getting them all on board to agree to this, and therefore undercut Amazon.
Yeah, if Apple
Got
had
it.
said we're going to do this and you set the price and you'll get 70% of it, and that was it, and Amazon wasn't pressured to match it or told that if we're not going to sell our digital books through you anymore unless you convert over to this approach, then it would have been different, because Amazon would have been allowed to continue their approach with the contracts, and Apple would have had a different approach. Uh, that would have been very
Yeah,
different.
I can also see Apple's argument, though, to be honest, because they're saying, hey, look, we see what Amazon's doing. We'd like to offer these same publishers what we think is a better deal. And their view probably is we offered them that deal. They all took it. Sorry, Amazon, right? that's probably Apple's position. But I think so much goes into the fact that Apple has the power to impact a market significantly that way, and they can't be seen as being anti-competitive that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some have made the argument that this is going to spill over into other things that Apple's done. I don't think there's other areas where we can point to behavior
Well,
like this that's as public
well, to me, it's
as this
not even the
is.
behavior; it's the magnitude. Like if you and I came up with some website where we wanted to sell books at, you know, under that same deal, and these publishers said, yeah, no one's going to care. We're not going to get found guilty of collusion and taking Amazon out of the market.
Right.
It's purely the fact that there was someone large enough with a channel large enough and kind of the power to bring those publishers into a part of the market that could do that damage to Amazon. That, to me, is the root of it.
And the damage they did was they told Amazon, we're going with this other approach, and if you don't change your contractual terms to this type of contract, we're not selling through you anymore.
Yeah.
And so that was the harm, and they really were looking at what is the harm to the consumer. I mean, if the net was all digital books went down to $5 instead of $9.99, I don't think there would have been the same case in the market. Amazon might have brought the case rather than the Justice Department.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's interesting how law, in my opinion, still struggles to keep up with the tech world.
And we're struggling.
Because this is an interesting one. I could easily see Apple's position on this too.
And we're struggling in an era where, and I've said this now for 7 or 8 years, digital books we've disintermediated so much things. We've removed intermediates from the process, not just the bookstore, because I can sell directly to a reader, but all those intermediate steps necessary to deliver a book. You write a book, you save it using any number of Calibra or any number of other apps to format it properly, Adobe PDF, and you can sell the book. You don't have to get it printed. You don't have to get it bound. You don't have to get it shipped. You don't have to buy store space and shelf space. You don't have to pay for rent.
You don't have to go through editors and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people and entities, you're right, disintermediated.
And when you remove all of that, you not only impact a market space where suddenly all those people are out of jobs, the truck drivers and the binders and the printers and a few editors, although I still like books that have been edited. You get rid of all of that, and those people lose jobs, but you also drive out all those costs. And to say that this is a $15 book and you want to sell it for $9.99, why? Well, because for $9.99 you're going to make more money on that book now than you were making at
Yeah, because you
$15.99.
don't have to recover the cost. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't, and if you don't sell a copy of a digital book, you don't have that wasted investment in, the $12 or $7 or $5 it took to actually make that
Doesn't
book.
exist till you sell it. Right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So
yeah, this is again, this is why I think it's an example of the market laws being a little bit out of step with what technology is bringing to the table.
yeah. And I would say if anybody's interested in some of the things I've written about this, if you go over to theprofessornotes.com and just search digital books, digital textbooks, I have several different things I've written on how digital books can really change the market space, and how pricing really should be different, especially when we start talking about textbooks and those sorts of things.
Yeah. Like George Zimmerman, when he gets to write his book and sell for millions, man, he should sell that thing for $4.99. You know how many he'll sell?
One less than you might have thought if you thought I was going to buy one.
One less.
If you pay me $4.99, I might do what I do with a lot of other books. I might let you pay me to put it on my shelf. It still doesn't mean I'm going to read it.
No, he's going to sell a lot of books, I predict.
All the issues of that case aside, have you watched any of it?
I told myself, I'm not getting drawn into this. This is ridiculous. And then it's the fact that July 4th fell on a Thursday.
And so
Because
Friday you
then
watched it?
Friday, everyone was off, whatever, and the judge decided to keep court in session. So it was all over the TV. Next thing I know, I'm like watching it. And so it, I watched it that day. I've been following some of the developments. I mean, you can't turn on any of the cable news channels and not hear like stuff about it. So you have to like try to avoid it. So I've been hearing a lot about it. I think it's a tragedy no matter how you slice what happened.
Yes.
That to me is the sad part. It's a tragedy no matter how you slice what happened. I think there were so many wrongs involved. Right?
One life lost, many lives ruined, regardless of who was at fault.
Regardless, and
Yeah.
I know the trial can only focus on, in the act of shooting, did he feel like his life was threatened? Was he defending himself? But I also just can't ignore the fact that, what leads to that? Why are you out walking the neighborhood following people? You were told, don't get me started on that. I just think there were so many other things that lead up to what was an avoidable tragedy that it's a shame. It also kind of surfaces some of the less than perfect things that exist in the best legal system in the world. They're still imperfect. And what is real justice here? I don't know. I think that's what people are struggling with. I think people are torn in a number of directions. And then you add the fact that, there's a race component to it. It's just it kind of brings up a lot of the problems that we have in society. It brings them to the surface, which is an issue.
Yeah, the thing that stepping back from, was he right or wrong in what he did? Was he attacked? Was he defending himself? Did he attack Trayvon? I mean, setting aside all of that, the part I have to laugh at in something as serious as this is how the prosecution seems to do everything they can to have their case implode on themselves. One of the things I heard happen was that they brought the police officer that arrested Zimmerman. They had him on the stand. The prosecution had him on the stand, and they said, "So, do you think it was self-defense? Do you think he was defending himself?" He goes, "Oh yeah." The prosecutor's like, "Really? Like, seriously? You didn't prep this guy before you put him on the stand? You didn't know what he was going to say? I just want to know where they get these lawyers in Florida. That's what I want to know."
I know. So there's been some interesting stuff. But I do think, part of that is, I think, when it's the state versus, I mean, part of their job is put all the facts out, right, and let the jury decide. And I think that's why you're seeing that type of stuff. I think they really are saying, put all the facts out, right, let the jury decide. But this is going to be this is going to be a tough one. I also think now that you're seeing it come down to the end, I don't know if you saw the ruling, I guess it was this morning, that the lesser charge of manslaughter, will go to the jury. I almost think their
Interesting.
strategy was to overcharge, knowing it would probably not be possible for them to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was second-degree murder, but then be able to say, okay, if you don't buy that, come on, you've got to at least feel like he was wrong enough to be, to convict him of manslaughter.
Yeah, he may have thought this was his only choice, but you reasonably believe he could have taken other action that didn't take a person's life.
Yeah, it's like those as seen on TV commercials where it's like, you know, buy this, tool that does all. Oh yeah, yeah, 1099. Well, if you didn't think that was a good deal, I'll throw in two. and you buy it. It's almost like murder, second-degree murder. Look, look, look. Oh, well, if you didn't think that was a good deal, you can get just manslaughter. There you go. It's almost like that's what they're trying to do. They overcharged. They knew that they'd have a tough time selling it, but now they can come in and almost make it an irresistible option for the jury to feel like they did some right, some justice by convicting him of manslaughter. I'm not saying they'll be successful, but it looks to me like that's what they're going after.
Yeah, at no point has he argued that he didn't pull the trigger.
No.
That he is responsible for taking someone's life, and so perhaps involuntary manslaughter, even that he felt that he had no other choice. Of course, if you get to that, then we do have to start wondering about castle laws too. That say, if someone invades your home, you have a right to shoot them. Invades your home, not just, hey, I had a guest over and I didn't like him anymore, so I shot them. But those castle laws are there as well. When you mentioned the coverage, I actually had not seen that. I've worked really hard to avoid hearing any of this. I just happened to turn it on one day, listening to MSNBC, and I was so enthralled with the fact I couldn't figure out whose
witness was whose?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out the expert witness. It was like she's ripping apart everybody.
Yeah.
There was, and her answers were perfect. She answered the way I've always wanted to hear someone answer. No, I didn't say that. What I said was, no, I can't reach that conclusion. I can only reach this conclusion as an expert.
Right.
It was kind of like she said, I'm here. You're going to give me a check to be an expert, but I don't have to do anything you want me to do.
Mm-hmm. The testimony's been very, very interesting, and probably the most spellbinding part of it is, you've heard about that 911 call with the yelling, and I don't believe these people are lying. I think it's the human condition. They play it for each mom. Oh yeah, that's my son. I know it's my son. Right? I mean, I don't think they're lying. I think they each really believe what they so desperately want to hear, right, in that very muffled, unintelligible noise. But I think they really believe it. And what's the jury going to do with that? I don't know. It'll be very, very interesting. But it also has brought out so much bad stuff. I mean, I actually got in an argument with somebody who I really just met. Didn't really know him, but we were at a kind of a social gathering, and this case came up, and he said, I don't care. I don't care what really happened. If I were testifying, I'd say that guy was guilty of shooting, and is wrong because he shot a black man, and I would always say, I'm like, really? And he's like, really? You don't know? I'm like, really? That's as bad as all this stuff that's making you that angry. And just had to turn my. But that's the type of stuff this is bringing out. Very sad, but I also think it's a reminder of what still lurks beneath, right, in our society. I mean, it's
I remember
OJ didn't solve it.
I remember I happened to have been in Baltimore. I think I've told you this before. I was in Baltimore with my mom in the hospital the day that O.J. Simpson was announced as not guilty. And there was a lot of celebration amongst the African American community in Baltimore because the black man wasn't found guilty of doing this. Mm-hmm. And I looked at it and I said, I'm not sure it's worthy of celebration for that reason. If he didn't do it, then I think it's great that justice has played out this way. I wasn't on the jury. The jury made a decision based on what they heard. I accept the fact that that's how our judicial process works. And of course, that also means, hey, whatever that woman was in Florida, again, we go back to a Florida court, accused of killing her kid. And everybody was so upset because she got off. It was kind of the reverse of this. This white woman killed her kid, allegedly, and she got off because of that. You know what? That's what the jury said. I think we have to accept the fact that there is this process, and the jury hears the case, and we hope that the best defense and the best prosecution were involved at the time, and that they made the case that they could. And so I try not to pay attention to it too much, because I don't want to go, well, I heard one person say. You know? And I don't want to get wrapped up in the, well, Zimmerman's Hispanic and the Hispanic community should support him, or he killed a black man, and so the black community should make sure that justice is meted out. Even if he didn't do it, somebody should pay him. Might as well be him. Or I don't want to see any of that. Let's just let the process play out.
I don't think most rational people want to see that. But the thing that's sad to me is it's there. And we'd like to think it's not, but man, I'm reminded just by how I've seen people react that it is there, and it's sad. It's sad that it's still there.
Well, let's take this back to real people and real tech for a brief second. You mentioned how you can't turn on the news without seeing it. Remember about a month ago there was that woman accused of killing her husband, and you couldn't turn on MSNBC or CNN during the day without. Actually,
you're talking about Jodi Arias thing? Yeah.
Yeah. See, I actually don't even remember her name, because I would just immediately turn it off.
Yeah.
But you couldn't turn on those channels without that being a major portion of the coverage for the day. And I'm thinking, who is she that we should even care?
That we should care, right? It's well, first of all, I think there's 24-hour news channels. Right, and this is a technology issue. Actually, now we've got this technology where we have all this bandwidth, right, to get all this content, and they're struggling, right, to retain eyeballs, right, to get ready. So you got to admit, they love this, right? They've got studios set up outside of the courthouse, basically 24/7 coverage of this. CNN is covering it 24/7. Remember that channel called Court TV? Well, that's gone.
Oh. Yeah, because CNN basically does it.
It's now called True TV, and all it shows is Bad Boys episodes all the time. I mean, so these channels.
What you gonna do?
These channels, MSNBC, CNN. I mean, they need this, right, to survive. I mean, Egypt's going through what Egypt's going through, yet we're watching, the Zimmerman trial, because it's eyeballs, right? It attracts so much viewership. They sell ads. I mean, that's what it's about.
Well, and it's too bad Chris is watching us and not joining us in on this. One of the guys he knows at Penn State tweeted, put on Facebook, I think it was, where is one to go for news these days? Because you can't really, he didn't say you can't count on MSNBC and CNN, but you really can't count on them to give you much news. And some people said, well, Twitter, but I remember during the
Google Reader.
It's really close to what my answer was. My answer is news.google.com. Because when I started thinking about it and driving back to tech, and kind of a tip, it uses algorithms. And so if we're going to say we're not going to put this in the hands of the biases of specific editors, and say what we will, Huffington Post has a bias. The Washington Post has a bias. Fox News has a bias.
No, not Fox.
Well, okay, maybe not Fox. I mean, there are these biases, and by the algorithms that Google uses on their website, news.google.com, because they're looking at, it's kind of crowdsourcing the news, and what the most editors think is an important story, that kind of bubbles to the surface. And so just opening up right now, the headlines are for U.S. top stories: difficult spot for Obama on the immigration push. Prosecution paints Zimmerman as angry vigilante in closing arguments. DNA evidence links Boston Strangler suspect to... Wait.
Wow, that's old news.
1964. South and North Korea fail again to agree on reopening shuttered complex. The one they closed down that said this is going to lead to war. So
Right.
you have a broad spectrum of news. You can actually get international and national news as it bubbles to the surface. And I would stay away from Twitter. I mean, Twitter might be good for maybe there's something happening out there, but we learned in Boston so much misinformation goes out on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
You have this citizen journalist reporting everything they see and hear when it turns out it was just two guys that were unarmed and 200 shots fired into a boat where the guy didn't have a gun.
But let's be honest. What do people want? Do they want news, or do they want entertainment? What do people really want? I always argue with like my mother-in-law when I see, she's talks about the news. Even when she visits, she watches the news. She doesn't care about the news. It has no bearing on her day. She wants to be entertained. She gets wrapped up in the drama of whatever it is, the story, the controversy, calls up her friends, wants to talk about something, gossip about something. The average person, do they really want news? Let's be honest.
I guess it's not gossip
really
if
want
it's
news.
on the news channel, right?
Right. I mean, I don't think the average person wants news. They like to feel good about themselves that I'm watching the news. I'm watching the 6 o'clock news. I'm watching CNN. It makes them feel good because they're not watching they're not reading the National Enquirer. They're watching the news. But this is really entertainment. It's really to get people to watch. July 5th, I was entertained. It was entertaining to see the bumbling lawyers, right? the then other lawyers commentating on the lawyers during the breaks. It was entertaining. It had no bearing on me living my life. Nothing useful I needed to take away from that to, be safe or productive or anything. It wasn't truly news for me. It is entertaining to people.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
And
what you get from news.google.com, if you really wanted news, I agree, that's where you go. But why do people find themselves watching this stuff so often? It's entertainment.
Well, let me give you the headlines. This is how important news.google.com is here. I mean, I clicked on the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania metro area section. Franklin County Fair chicken barbecuers aim for delicious perfection.
There you go. What would you do without knowing that?
I'm wondering. Salons may soon replace Fast Eddie's bar. Huh? What? Citizens red flag school superintendent's address change. He changed his address on his driver's license, and it's a violation of his contract, according to citizens in Chambersburg area school district. So
that could be news.
That's news. Massive gas leak alarmed and awoke residents in Hummelstown early Thursday. Yeah. That's news.
Gas leaks are news. Yeah.
Yeah. Smoker identified gas leak.
Oh, jeez. And lived to tell about it. But again, I think, and this is a tech story, I think we're in an era where there's so many channels for information. And what used to be sources I think we could trust to make a living delivering us true news, right, and still having a productive business can no longer survive doing that. So they now seek to, frankly, entertain us or to shock us. And that's what you find. I mean, you can't watch any of these. Turn on CNN, and how long before you get teased?
Okay, you know what?
2 minutes, maybe.
This is breaking news. This is 3 hours old. This is 3 hours old news. Thank you to news.google.com tech news. Right here. And you might want to get your iPad ready, Tony. Best Buy today announced that it will be initiating a trade-in program on Friday, tomorrow, offering gift cards worth at least $200 for working iPad 2 and third-generation iPad models. It's a 2-day special running Friday and Saturday, allowing customers to bring in their old iPads to trade in for $200, which can be put towards the purchase of the latest version of the tablet. current price for the 16 gig is $499, so it's still going to cost you $300.
Hmm.
Which is interesting because that's how Best Buy is getting around the fact that they
Wonder why
can't.
you trade in your like iPad. I mean, to get the different connector. I don't know. It's the only thing really. But
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You trade in your iPad 2 or third generation iPad.
iPad 2 maybe I could see. You get Retina, faster. But I don't know why anyone would trade in an iPad 3. But
Well, and you know what I find interesting there is Apple doesn't let them sell at a loss, right? This is part of that whole model. They have to sell the Apple products at the Apple price
yeah,
at these stores, and this is a way to say, oh no, 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 we're not discounting your product. You buy it for $500, but
sure.
we're gonna give them a $200 gift card
Hmm.
separate for it. It'd
Guess
be
that
interesting to
works.
see what if Apple has anything to say about that. But hey, that's news we didn't even have in our show notes.
Brand new, brand new.
3 hours.
Hey, I know it's getting late for you. It is for me too.
Yeah, I just want two things. I want to have one other tip for those that you actually use Google Hangouts and use Google Plus. It turns out you can actually log in. This came from the Chronicle of Higher Education. You can actually allow somebody to have access to your computer like Remote PC or Go to My PC or any of those sorts of things, where you can have somebody diagnose it, take control of your machine, and step through it. You give them permission. You can take it back from them. But using Google Hangout, you can now do that. Give somebody permission to come in and work on your computer, share something on your computer, and do some work on there. Uh, so there's a quick tip. My pick. This is an oldie but a goodie for me. This is VirtualBox.
Ah,
We talked before the show. I'm having to do a simulation for a contract I'm on, and you and I both programmed in Simon, which was a simulation language where you actually had to code in actual typing, right? We had to put all the codes in
oh man.
blocks and create and destroy blocks and command lines. Now it's an object-oriented type of thing, similar to what you do in Visio. And I was trying to get it installed on my machine, and it won't install. It turns out it won't run in Windows 8 64-bit, and all my machines are Windows 8 64-bit, because I thought I was in the year 2013.
Little did you know.
Little did I know it won't. So thank goodness I have a TechNet subscription. It would run in Windows 7 32-bit. So open up Oracle's VirtualBox. I installed Windows 7 in VirtualBox. I shared the folder on my existing machine through VirtualBox because you can share existing folders. I installed Arena. I'm off and running, and I can start prototyping as I wait for the license to come in on the contract that we have to get the full-up expensive version of the whole thing. But VirtualBox, if you need to run something, you want to go back to an older version of Word or Office or Microsoft Windows for some reason to run some other software, VirtualBox remains free. Just go to virtualbox.com or .org. I think both of them will work, and download that and give it a try. And that way you can even try Ubuntu, a great Linux opportunity, things like that. So pick of the week. It's an oldie, VirtualBox.
Oldie, but a very goodie still.
Yes. Yeah. Yours
My
is
pick.
awesome.
My pick. Have you heard of Air Server? My pick is Air Server. And the thing I like about it is, it's a piece of software. It's about $15 for individuals. You install it on Mac or PC, and it basically turns that device into an AirPlay receiver. So meaning if you've got an iOS device, iPhone, iPad, and you need to beam whatever content you're listening to or watching to that bigger screen device, even if it's a PC,
Nice.
you can do it with Air Server. So think about computer labs, things like that in schools, or you buy these big permanently sealed iMacs up to 27 inches, like your brother has one. Eventually that's going to be obsolete, and you might think, well, gee, what do I do to this? Now, if someone has one of those, turn it into basically a big screen content receiver for AirPlay, and you can, as long as it can still run that software, you've got a good use for that device, at least for something. So I think it's at least until Apple maybe says no, you can't do this. For now, it's a pretty useful piece of software that many people may find useful.
So let's say you don't want to spend $100 on an Apple TV, but you happen to have an Apple Mini laying around with HDMI out. This supports HDMI, so you could actually pipe it through, use an HDMI connector to your TV for your with Air Server, and for $15 plus existing hardware, put it on
Yeah,
your TV
you could.
using
Now,
HDMI.
it doesn't give you all the functionality of an Apple TV. It doesn't have, um, all those apps, the iTunes Store, etc., in it. So you'd still need to add that to fully get an Apple TV. But you're right. If you don't have or want to buy an Apple TV, but you still want the benefits of AirPlay, yeah, you got it.
You want to throw your content over. Now I'm looking, and I don't see AirPlay is not a PLNA or DLNA standard, right? So it doesn't work on the same way that the Androids work, throwing stuff back and forth.
Yeah,
Correct?
it's a proprietary standard. I believe it's similar to those streaming standards, but not the same. So it is its own, something has to specifically be AirPlay compatible. For example, I've got this HTC Media Link thing that the HTC One works on. I believe it uses one of those standards you mentioned.
I think it's DLNA.
DLNA. It's DLNA.
Yeah, that's kind of the de facto standard for everything except Apple for transferring. And so that's
What do you know? Apple doing something that's not compatible with anybody else.
I wonder if there's anything keeping Air Server from adding that functionality. So, I mean, think about it. For those people that happen to have an Android phone that want to do the same thing with their Mac and throw the content over that way, it would be kind of a useful tool. That's a really great pick, Tony. And just to have kind of a recap on picks, I had my nephew and his fiance are moving out to Illinois this weekend. We had Chris and Drake on one of the shows as one of our guests. Another episode where you weren't able to join us, the family episode. And we sat down late last night. He goes, "Okay, what apps do we need?" And I said, "Well, here's some good ones that Tony picked. If you just pay attention to the show." And the battery
widget reborn. Yes.
I live and die by that. In fact, I need to send you a link when I'm up at the lake where I'm 30 feet away from my microcell in my house, and so I have a strong cell signal and I got Wi-Fi. It told me I had 29 hours of battery life left.
Wow, I love that. See, I would feel really good that I picked an Android app that you like. It's good.
An awesome Android app. Absolutely awesome. And when it said 29 hours, I'm like, yeah, I don't believe it. It's not one of those apps that just doesn't know what it's doing. And I'm not using the phone much, and I just left it unplugged all weekend. And I'll be darned.
It was right, huh?
It lasted 29, 30, 31 hours.
Wow.
And then I finally plugged it in before it died because I didn't want it to die. Because, it's such a bad word, die.
Mine says empty in 2 days, 16 hours, and 16 minutes.
There you go, see? Yeah, mine's 2 hours and 23 minutes. It's not exactly. I've kind of been using mine kind of heavily today, especially when I was tethering.
Yeah.
And it is use dependent, and it has been working pretty much all day. I've charged it in a couple times, bumped up 10% here and there. But a great pick you had, and I just want to let you and the listeners and let you know that there's a lot of people liking that pick that you had. So,
very good.
A lot of stuff. As I look at you through the glass and take one more snapshot as we wrap up the show here, I'll just have to say that that tech
was real.